Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith without doubting. For the doubter is like the surging sea, driven and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, being double-minded and unstable in all his ways. And that
So basically, don't doubt, instead just believe blindly before you have the evidence. Yeah, that's not a rational mindset to have, I'll have you know. That is not a rational method by which you go about assessing something. You don't just put your faith in something and hope for the best, and then also be condemned for doubting it. Do you guys remember young Don Reborn? You remember last year I debated him. I had like a 3-hour long debate with him. Well, he did a animated video on how I became a Christian.
How young Don became a Christian. Once upon a time, I was a fairly popular YouTuber. I amassed 2.4 million subscribers. I made animations telling funny stories about my life. I was getting millions of views on every video. I was making a lot of money by the time I was like 24 by just drawing dumb cartoons about my life. I went by the name Young Don the Sauce God, which, wow, pretty blasphemous, right? And like most young people today, it seems,
Blasphemy. The blasphemous.
I was my own God. I believed in the law of attraction. I thought religion was stupid. Jesus probably never existed, and if he did, he certainly didn't walk on water. I was a perpetual bachelor. I dated casually, never looking for anything serious. I was red pill. I drove sports cars. I lived in a nice apartment.
Whoa, drove sports cars. Hold up now. We got a heathen on our side. Whoa, we got a heathen over here, boys.
In LA. I smoked weed. I drank regularly. I was pro.
Did he just say he smoked the marijuana? Oh my gosh, drinking the drugs? Smoking the alcohols?
Abortion, and I didn't think being gay was that big of a deal. So in summary, I was wicked. And this is who I was for about 5 years, from 2017 to 2022. And
I like how some of it obviously, yeah, being a red pill, that's definitely evil, okay? God hated you for that one. But the rest of this, really, smoking weed. I like how in the background too he has her body, her choice up here. Really, you were hanging out in your bachelor pad with a big ol' her body, her choice thing. Man, you know what this room's missing? A Planned Parenthood poster. That would really spice this manly place up, yo. Red pill and all.
every year was more wicked and worldly than the last. I even remember in 2020, one of my friends telling me about someone we used to know in college who became super obsessed with Jesus and moved out to like a farm and went overseas on mission trips to like Africa. And I remember thinking it was one of the most ridiculous things in the world at that time. Because when I knew him, he was just one of the guys smoking weed, chasing chicks, you know, he was normal. My life was very simple without Jesus. I wasn't happy. I always felt like I wasn't famous enough or made enough money. I had no peace, but my life was simple because
So here's the thing though, whenever they say this, I had no peace, then I found God and everything was different. What about when you had God and then still had no peace? That was my experience, okay? Growing up, I had God. Growing up, I dedicated my life to Christ. Growing up, I never had peace, okay? God does not give you peace. It is literally just the belief, when you believe that you are following something truthful, that you then can take peace in. That can obviously make you feel more at peace, but it doesn't mean that what you believe is true.
I was my own God, my own moral judge, and it could have stayed that way, but God clearly had other plans. You see, towards the end of this period of my life, God started changing things within my heart and mind and started moving people around in a way which I now see made my conversion to Christianity inevitable. The first thing he did was he changed my views on family. If you asked anyone how I felt about marriage, going all the way back to like 2015, you'd get the same answer. I am never getting married. I didn't even want kids.
So based! I'm not divorced, what?
At least not before I was like 35 or something. But I started listening to this guy named Kevin Samuels, who went super viral during 2020. And he was wicked, for sure. His show consisted mostly of delusional women in their late 20s to late 30s calling in and just sharing all of the reasons why they deserve to marry a guy who makes like $300,000 a year, even though they're overweight and have a kid. And then Kevin would just crack jokes on them and scold them for being so delusional. And it was unlike anything else on YouTube, you know, and it was pretty entertaining at that time. Today would just strike me as mindless gossip, but I was spiritually dead. So one thing about Kevin, though, was that he called himself a Christian.
I was spiritually dead. You hear that, everybody? That's going to be my new go-to now, okay? You don't really like the show Friends? Wait, what? Okay, it's because you're spiritually dead. Clearly.
Christian. He's dead now, by the way. There really weren't any fruits of his.
What was that supposed to mean? He called himself a Christian. He died. Okay, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that information, but I think I'm going to go stand over there.
Him being a Christian, to be honest, but he mentioned on multiple occasions the fact that he believed in the God of Christianity and that he went to church at some point in his life and was a big advocate for marriage. Despite the fact that he was in the manosphere alpha male red pill space online, he believed that it was in the best interest of both the men and women that they find a spouse and never get divorced, even though he himself was divorced. And for reasons I couldn't explain, it appealed to me. I had heard people advocate for marriage before, but until then it was never convincing. I saw how divorce ruined my family, and I was familiar with many stories of successful men getting married and then the women divorcing them and taking all their money and their children. So I was not interested in that at all. But for some reason, what Kevin was saying about the importance of getting married just started making sense. Eventually, God put a young lady in my life, and though she wasn't a Christian, she had a lot of the characteristics of—
Whoa! Getting a little risky there. What do you mean not a Christian? Unequally yoked.
What I had learned to look for when looking for a wife in this day and age. She was beautiful. She was feminine, friendly.
What was I looking for? Well, she had to be hot. The first thing that God really put on my heart to look for in a bride is she's got to be smoking sexy, dude, okay? She's got to be boiling hot.
As far as I was concerned, that was like finding a needle in a haystack in this day and age. So we started dating.
Look at God. God, little matchmaker. God is acting out like holy Tinder right now. Or would this be Christian Mingle?
Dating seriously, and within like 6 months, she got pregnant with our first daughter. I proposed and started mentally
You mean you got her pregnant before you were married? I'm sorry, I just thought about it again. Oh my gosh. Holy, did God save you yet from your wickedness? I'm confused.
preparing to have a family. This was the next major chess piece that God moved, because it occurred to me that I had no idea how to raise a family, how to manage a wife and kids and still be in charge and commanding respect while also being patient and loving. Also, along with me becoming more traditionally minded, I was also becoming more conservative, and so was quickly becoming anti-rainbow, and I didn't want my daughter to grow up and be a whore or a boy. So I was like, what?
That's always really comforting. You better not be trans, and you better not be a whore. I love you. I like how the whore picture, sorry, we gotta go back one more time. Okay, I like how the whore picture is just like a girl wearing something that's like slightly low cut with a purse.
A whore or a boy. So I was like, what can I turn to so that I can raise a good family? And then it came to me. Religion. Wasn't a guarantee, right? But it was better than nothing. So my fiance and I talked about it. Neither of us were
What can I use to control this situation? What about that old religion thingamabob I used to hear a lot about?
religious. Both of us grew up being exposed to some variation of Christianity. And so we agreed to become Christians and go to church. We thought about Islam for like 2 seconds, but I decided it would be less of a hassle to just go with Christianity. But what that should show you is where I was spiritually. This was a completely strategic, sterile, practical move. I was not a true believer. I did not believe in Jesus.
Okay,
I was
at
just
least he
looking.
admits it. Wow. What religion shall we convert to today? I'm thinking about Islam. Although, let's be real, it's going to be a pain in the ass to get you to wear a burqa, and I really don't want to have to do that. Plus, I need you to drive, so if you're not driving, it'll be a pain. Why don't we go with Christianity? That seems that's a little more hip with the kids nowadays, you know?
Looking for a good culture to raise decent children. We start occasionally going to a local Catholic church just to get the feel of things, and we end up watching this TV show on Netflix called Midnight Mass, which was this demonic
Oh yeah, I remember wanting to watch this one. Hold on, the more that he hates it, the more that I know it's good. So let's hear his recommendation here.
vampire show set on an island where the priest of a small Catholic church was a vampire that was killing people. So not a Christian show, but there was one episode where they talked about
Blasphemy.
the book of Proverbs and how it's a book in the Bible filled with mind-blowing wisdom. And that little piece of information in this incredibly demonic show intrigued me enough to actually
What intrigues me to read Proverbs is thinking about it the way that, Proverbs is basically just God's Twitter feed, okay?
buy a Bible and read the book of Proverbs. And I was so impressed with how rich and powerful the contents of that book were. It was better than all of the self-help personal development books I had ever read put together. And the thing that struck me the most was the sense of authority the author spoke with. I could just tell that this was not some ordinary book. Anyway, for the next 10 months or so, I pretty much play around with being a Christian. We'd go to our Catholic church every once in a while, where I'd often take a shot of vodka before we went. Maybe once in a blue moon, I'd actually...
Dude, what a based mofo. Man, now this is the kind of guy I want to go to church with right here.
pick up the Bible and read a few chapters, but I was not born again. I was still living in sin. I still had a dirty mouth. Didn't really care about or know anything theological.
Luckily for me, I don't swear like ever, I'm not a swearer.
Concerning Christianity. And this was more or less how things were from June of 2021 all the way until March of 2022. This is because in March, my daughter was finally born, and now it was time to put this plan of religion into practice. By this time, we had moved to a new city, so we started going to a new church. I gradually became more and more curious about what Christianity actually was and how it worked over the course of the previous year. So I started listening to some popular pastors on YouTube, like John MacArthur and Vodi Bakum. And one thing John MacArthur preached on was that the Roman Catholic Church was a false church, and he opened my eyes to the blatant idolatry and worship of Mary that was clearly unbiblical. So I decided that we were going to start going to a local Baptist church. So we're doing that, and at the same time, I'm taking a break from animating on that big channel, and I started a reaction channel. This channel that you're watching right now, actually, it was called Young Don the Sauce God 2, and I was reacting to worldly content. I was still living in sin, and then the Roe v. Wade thing happened, where abortion was no longer a constitutional right in America. And because I was in this weird place where I was still worldly, I was still living in sin, but I was now a full-blown conservative politically, and I fully adopted all of the moral positions of traditional Christianity, I ended up online celebrating Roe v. Wade being overturned. But remember, to my longtime fans, I was supposed to be this cool, chill, funny black guy who made cartoons from Jamaica. I wasn't supposed to be serious, and if anything, I was supposed to be liberal. Next thing you know, I'm in debate.
I mean, you don't have to be anything. You're not supposed to be anything. Next thing I know, I'm debating? Am I going to get mentioned? Am I going to get an honorable mention?
I'm in debates with some of the biggest faces on the internet about why abortion is murder and should be made illegal. I'm talking guys with millions of subscribers. Next thing I know, I'm getting death threats. People are saying just the most vile things about me. I went from never really getting any hate in my entire YouTube career to being like just getting mad hate all at once. And it just brought me to a place where I had to make a decision. Here I was getting hate because I'm standing up for values that I really took on because I saw myself as a Christian. But I could now see how unpopular this was going to make me in the eyes of
I
my...
hate the whole thing about being worldly also. You know, when I was a kid, I used to get like anxiety about liking things too much because it was quote unquote worldly. Like, I hate that. I hate this whole like separation where the Bible's like, be in the world, but not of the world, which basically means let your mom and dad decide how much you can like something and how much you can't. Because if you like something too much, now you're a part of the world. But if you like it the right amount, well, now you're just in the world and not of the world. It's literally just ambiguous and vague and able to be weaponized by anyone to essentially just restrict anything they don't like. It's completely pathetic. And it's actually sad because this dude literally is becoming a Christian because he originally looked into Christianity because he wanted more control over the situation, which seems really, I don't know, just disingenuous.
Longtime fans and many of the popular people of the world that I had made connections with. And so I had to ask, was this Jesus stuff worth it? Was it worth me putting my status as an internet celebrity in jeopardy? Did I even really believe it? I remember it so clearly. It was nighttime. I had just finished responding to this popular YouTuber who had called me out for my crazy takes on Twitter. And I went and sat on my back patio with my Bible, and I was just talking to God, asking him to help me know what to do. I end up opening my Bible to the
I know he didn't say my name, but I'm going to go ahead and take credit for that. I think that was me, okay?
book of James, and I start reading. And then I hit chapter 1, verse 5, and it reads, "Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith without doubting. For the doubter is like the surging sea, driven and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, being double-minded and unstable in all his ways." And that hit.
So basically, don't doubt. Instead, just believe blindly before you have the evidence. Yeah, that's not a rational mindset to have. I'll have you know. That is not a rational method by which you go about assessing something. You don't just put your faith in something and hope for the best, and then also be condemned for doubting it.
Hit me like a ton of bricks, because that's where I was, being torn between who I was and who I was starting to become. Someone who truly cared about God. And to be honest, at the time, my faith was like a little ember. You know, I still had my doubts, but I felt sure enough that I wanted to take a chance and step forward in faith. When I asked myself, do I really believe in Jesus, or is this just a costume that I was wearing? And I knew that I truly believed. And so the very next day is when I dropped this video right here. And that was officially the start of my Christian journey. Thank you for watching. Like the video, leave a comment, and thank you to everyone who supports my channel.
Wow. Okay. So that's the story. So he went from cool, chill dude smoking weed to being transphobic. I'm kidding, obviously. That's a bit of a hyper simplification, but still a little bit of a disappointment with this video. Wow, that's a little bit of a downer in my opinion.